Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric with Providence MBA, and we are starting here at the top of the hour. We've got some folks that are just coming on in. So we're going to give it just a few more minutes because people try to get started and they're trying to get into their computer, and so it takes a little bit of time. But I can already tell you that looks like we've got a good crowd already. So for those that are already on here, thank you for joining us, and I think you're really going to get a lot out of this webinar. Now, if you are going to hear this as a recording, you're still going to get a lot out of this webinar today. And I'm going to show you those that are going to be listening to as a recording. I do have a giveaway that I'd like for even you yourself to get. So hang on with us towards the end of the webinar. I'm going to tell you how to get it. Folks, today's topic of the webinar is Office Manager Rockstar. That's what we need. We need more Office Manager Rockstars in the doctor's clinic in order that they can help those independent doctors stay and remain independent and increase their cash flow. So again, you're going to get a whole lot out of the webinar today, and you're really going to enjoy the guest speaker that I had this afternoon. So let me tell you that the webinar is brought to you by Providence MBA. MBA stands for Medical Business Advancements. That's what we work on, and we're a medical revenue management company. So we do a lot of billing. We help a lot of doctors increase their revenues and stay above and stay in the black. So that's what we focus our attention on. Again, my name's Eric Auger. I'm the CEO of Providence MBA. Here's our website. So if you want to go learn more about us, you can go to our website, providencemba.com. Check us out there on our website. Now, I mentioned to you about a free book today. I'm going to give everybody that's on the webinar today and those that listen to the webinar as a recording a way to get this book. And you can see that it was written by Dr. Vicki Rackner, who is a good friend of mine, and I was able to write the foreword to that book, so you're going to want to get a copy of that. The title is How Physicians Can Get More Patients. So again, you're going to want to know how to get that book. I'll have it both in PDF and in EPUB, so you can be able to get that. Listen, we're not going to take a lot of time of the whole introductions, but I am wanting to introduce a colleague of mine, not only a colleague, but has become a very good friend of mine. Her name's Alex. Alex has had over 10 years of managing experience in the clinic. As you can see there, her passion is, again, is helping that doctor become more efficient in their practice and obviously productivity and profitability. You can see her main focus is working with each of the staff members and love helping the clinic office managers help their doctors be successful and again, remain independent. She's married, got 2 boys. She's a graduate from TCU in the degree of how do you say that, Alex?
Kinesiology.
Thank
Kinesiology.
you. Whatever that is, that's what she does. So thanks again for joining us. Alex, I know that you're having to call in remote. We can't see you on the video, but that's okay. Alex, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
No, thank you for having me come on this webinar and help all of these great office managers be a huge asset to their doctors. I am so passionate about this because for a long time I managed clinics and I was just so proud of my role because I was really kind of like the quarterback of our clinic, and I took a lot of pride in that. And so I feel like I became really good as an office manager and really want to be able to help anybody that might be struggling as an office manager and help them, grow.
You bet. Now, obviously, Alex, you and I were talking even before we got started here on the webinar today. We would have to say we haven't mastered everything, and even the best of the best of the best of the office managers, we're still finding ways to educate ourselves, get better at what we do. But these are some of the topics that we're going to talk about today. You have found that to be what you would consider the best practice in your clinic, and you just want to share some of that. And then, so if there's any other office managers that are on here today, you can go over there and use the question box area. So don't forget about over there in the question box area. You can either type in a question or tell us some of the things that you maybe have done to help increase your doctor's revenue, some of the things that you found. Folks, think of this as not us educating or just simply teaching you. We're all in this together. So if there's something that you're doing that's doing very well, please let us know, because again, we're always in a learning mode. Alex, we're going to start talking about the topic. So what we've done here today, folks, we've broken this thing down into 3 major topics. So what are these Rockstar topics? So the first one that we're going to talk about is the Rockstar Workflows. And again, we're going to dive into those in a minute. I'm going to kind of get in with Alex here in just a moment, where I'm just going to interview her on some of the workflows that she implemented into her practices and some of the workflows that she's actually currently working on with some of the doctors that she's currently working with in her line of business. Then we've named this second one, set, let go, and then let grow. Now, we know this is probably the most difficult of all the things, because I think we can set workflows, but then, and I think we can even set some other things, but it's that second part of that line there. It's that let go part of it. Alex and I were even talking about that as well. And then lastly, creating the bling with revenue stream opportunities. So folks, that's what we're going to be talking about. And again, there's some more people that have come on. So if you just come on a little bit late, thank you for joining us on this webinar. And again, use your question box over there. You'll find it under the GoToWebinar control panel. Find the question box area. I'll be monitoring that throughout the afternoon. So let's get started. Alex, let's talk about Rockstar Workflows. What are you currently doing? Or kind of tell us a little bit about kind of where you started, how you learned what you consider to be your Rockstar Workflows.
Well, Eric, this is probably one of the most critical portions of any environment, whether it's in a medical facility or obviously in any other job. Creating a workflow that's efficient is very important. And the reason why is because we, especially in the medical field, are involved in a very heavy pace environment. Right. I mean, from phones ringing off the hooks to scheduling, to patients walking in, to prescriptions being faxed in, you are going to be working in an environment that never stops. Right. I mean, I don't care what time you're going home. I don't care if you're going home at 6, 7 o'clock p.m. The work load really never kind of eases up on you. Right. You know, patient care is 24/7. You can't really tell a patient, hey, I'm going to put your diabetes on hold for today so we can just, get caught up on some other things. And so if you do not create an efficient system for your staff to get caught up, you're going to find yourself really running in circles and really kind of finding yourself always behind. And now let me tell you why that's so critical, Eric. When you start falling behind on some of these workflows, you're going to have patients that are not very happy. Right. And this is where a lot of our managers get overwhelmed, because guess who has to put out the fires when the patient's not very happy? Yeah. Exactly, your office manager. And so you have a lot of office managers, when you walk into clinics, they just feel overwhelmed, they feel overworked, and they feel like they can't catch a break. And so if you at the beginning are able to really create a system that helps your staff be more efficient and have a more controlled environment, you're never going to really catch up, but you're going to be able to kind of get some things done that take priority over others, that will eliminate some of those angry phone calls that you're going to get from people just not getting what their expectation is of receiving. And so one of the things that has worked really well in our office is creating systems where you create timelines. So every day when I was managing, we created timelines of things that needed to get done with defined roles. And so we have to hold certain staff members accountable for being able to get those things done. We have one person in our office that handles only scheduling. Then we have another person that handles all of the insurance verifications and all of the follow-up calls that need to be done. Then you have your medical assistants that have defined roles, so that everybody understands what they're responsible for, and you can really truly work as a team. Sure. Now, with that being said, having a defined role, if you go on to the next slide, also means that I
kind of named this one a little bit different from what you had, but is you kind of listed this as CrossTraining, but I call it fix the I'm the only one disease. The I'm the only one is the office manager that can do anything and everything, and nobody else can do what I can do.
Correct. So yes, and with that being, I had named it CrossTraining also because you gotta trust that your team. It goes kind of both ways, right? Fix the I'm the only one disease, which means, okay, they're not going to get it done right, so I'll handle it. Yeah. Most office managers are leaders by nature. They're type A personality, they're go-getters, they're leaders for the most part. You will come across some individuals that have been thrown in that role, but I would say that 9 out of 10 people that I work with are already kind of just leaders, natural born leaders that have a little bit of a hard time to getting this mentality out of them. I'm the only one disease. And so with that being said, it is important to cross-train your team to be able to let them do their work efficiently, and vice versa, Eric. One of the things that drives me off the wall sometimes when I'm working with some of these managers is, well, that's not my job.
Right.
I was only supposed to be doing this. Because you're in a dynamic environment, because you're going to be having so many things come at you, you will never be able to run an efficient clinic if you only allow people to do one job.
Sure.
And so it's very important for everybody to be picking up what the other one is putting down. This is where that true team environment comes from. If I notice that there's a stack of scanned insurances that need to be put in our EHR system, I can't simply ignore it because that wasn't quote unquote my job.
Right.
You know, and vice versa, like you're saying. I can't keep my staff when they are asking, hey, can I help you with something? No, I'll get it done, because they don't trust that somebody else can do that.
Well, there's another thing, and this happens with every business. We get the mentality that again, I'm the only one that can do it, and I'm the only one that can do it right. But you've got to put your test to what's called the bus test, and that the whole adage is that if I get hit by the bus today, who can really take up the slack? Now, obviously, Alex, not everybody has a staff. There are some office managers, and they are it. They are doing anything and everything. So I know
Correct.
that for them, they are the only one. And so it's not that they can even push that off on anybody. But again, what you would do if you had a team, you have to make yourself your own team, and you've got to set again your own parameters, your own boundaries, and again, train somebody in the event that you need to take a day off, or get with the doctor and say, look, I need to teach someone just in the event that, something happens to me and someone needs to come in here. And then thirdly, on this whole workflows, this whole Rockstar workflow, and this is where I think whenever I first met you, this is where you excelled. You create a family environment, but again, it has certain boundaries, because the staff members at the clinic that you were working with when I first met you absolutely loved you. And not only did they love you, they kind of protected you, but then, you also had the freedom to talk with the staff and say, no, let this person come through. This was a great thing that you did. So let's talk a little bit how you developed that kind of family environment culture.
Correct. And this is probably the hardest thing that most people run across when they are managing people. So 95% of management sometimes can be babysitting. You have to hold accountable people for their roles, for the workflow that you have established, without, one, being overbearing and being micromanagerial, and two, having them the enough courage to tell you when maybe they don't feel like you have been fair with them. So you have to be that good parent, bad parent to them, right? Hey guys, we start work at 8:45 in the morning. When you walk in and you clock in, if you're 15 minutes late, there's going to be consequences for being late. Obviously, things happen. We might get a flat tire. Our kids might get sick. Something happens. Life happens. We understand that. But you have to be able to enforce some of the rules for them to have those boundaries and to respect you as an authority figure in the clinic. But at the same time, love you and respect you for who they are. I just had actually a meeting with my team yesterday because, we see our coworkers a lot more than we probably see anybody else in our life. Right. I see my coworkers and my colleagues more than I see my husband, more than I see my kids. I know you do the same. And so I care for my staff. I care for my employees. I care for the people that I see on a day. I care for my doctors. This is why we're doing this, is to keep them independent so that they have a true way of being able to treat patients without that, pressure of seeing 30, 40 patients in a day, and to offer that quality care. And so when we create that family environment, you really do so because you spend so much time with them, and it's very difficult to not get caught up with the emotional connection that you have with the people that you spend time with. So it can be very easy for some individuals to misinterpret that, and to then all of a sudden start pushing some boundaries. She's not really going to care. It's okay if I miss today.
Yeah.
Or, oh, well, I don't have to show my documentation. She knows where I'm at. Well, guess what? If you have an exception for one employee, then you have to have that same exception for everybody else that works around you.
Yeah.
And you can easily lose control of your clinic if you start just, bending the rules for your employees, because everybody's going to wonder why one person can get away with it and why another person can't. So you want to create a family environment, a loving environment, a caring environment for each other, but also make sure that from the beginning, when you have that defined role, whether you're hiring a new employee or you are being hired as a new manager for that clinic, you have boundaries where it's like, hey guys, I'm here to be your friend, but business comes first, and you can't push me around. You can't push those boundaries without there being consequences. And as long as we have those defined boundaries from the beginning and you stick to that, you'll be okay, because you won't run into this, well, okay, this time's okay, but next time, you have to be here. Because believe me, I don't care again where you work, right, Eric? You can have that happen in any setting.
You bet. Hey, I got a question in here from Don. Don's asking a question, and it's kind of relating to this whole thing, but basically on number 2, where we talked about, don't have that, that the I'm the only one disease type of thing. He's asking, is it wise to use temporary labor when someone is on vacation or during a busy time, maybe like the flu season, for example, or is that not a good idea in a medical practice? Great question there, Don, and I'll let Alex answer that question.
I think it's going to be on an individual basis. I myself would say that if you know that somebody is going to be out for a certain amount of time, and if that's going to be very stressful on your workflow, to go ahead and allow somebody to come in, whether it's somebody that knows that they're not going to be hired on full time at the end of that season, or a temp agency, because the last thing you want, again, is to start falling behind, or for your team to start feeling really overwhelmed by running a very, very lean crew. Now, if it's somebody that's going to be out for, I would say 2 weeks or less, I wouldn't really worry about it. I would kind of delegate those responsibilities to your already members, maybe incentivize everybody for working hard by giving, doing a luncheon at the end of the month while that person was out, so that they don't feel like, well, now we have all this extra work and no extra pay, right? For them taking up the slack. So great question. I would say anything longer than 2 weeks, it would be good to get some extra help so that you don't fall too behind. Anything previous to 2 weeks, my experience would be maybe just use your staff.
You bet. Again, we're kind of watching the time here, so we're got about less than 15 minutes. So we want to make sure that, again, we try to get all this information in. We're trying to cram it in. We know that your time is valuable as an office manager, and we want to make sure that you get back to what you need to get back to. We talk about the number 2, set, let go, and grow. And trust is huge, because what happens is when you maybe set certain expectations, it breaks down at number 2 to let go. Now, we know that trust in and of itself has certain expectations. And here where we work, we have a defined trust definition, and that is future expectations based upon past business or past experience or past workflows of that person. Are they trustworthy? Because then I know that I can let go, and then obviously we can let grow in this part of it. So Alex, kind of tell me your step processes of making sure you're doing the right setting, the right letting go, and the good letting grow.
Absolutely. So it goes back to our previous slide of delegating the right, just the right workflow for everybody. First of all, when you are in the hiring process, make sure that you are very thorough with the way that you are going to want that person to operate. I think that's the first thing, is being very transparent. What are your expectations? Don't sit there and talk to a patient. I'm sorry, not a patient, a future employee, and make them feel like this is only what they're going to be responsible for, if you really don't have those that you're holding them accountable for, And then from there, again, just trusting your team. If I tell you what, if you are constantly micromanaging people will leave they won't leave a business, they'll leave bad managers. And so
Yes.
you have to remember that just as much as you want to feel like that you have the support, so does your team. And a lot of that is just trust. So trust that they're going to do their work.
Yep. And then let it go. And then let it go. I mean, Alex and I were talking about this earlier. We were just saying this is sometimes even a very difficult thing that Alex is having to do, even with some of our own team members right now. And then lastly, part of this whole area is knowing that you as an office manager, think of yourself as the captain of a ship. Everything almost sort of depends upon you, whether that office is going to sink, whether it's going to float, and if it's floating, what direction is it going in? So we've got a couple of just little bitty things here that we want you to kind of keep in mind. And we call this kind of checking your gear here. Alex, you talked about this about office supplies. Tell me what you're talking about there and thinking about that about office supplies.
One thing that I come across, Eric, that a lot of managers don't really think about is how much financial responsibility they really have on their hands, because they're the ones that are ordering supplies. They're the ones that are making some decisions about who they're going to partner with for merchant services, utilities, and whatnot. And so a lot of people don't realize that you are going to be the one that's going to be responsible for the financial growth of that practice. But that also means that if more money is going out the door than what's coming in, you're going to run into trouble. And I don't think a lot of office managers realize that. When I do consulting with managers now, I sit down and I ask them, do you know how much you're spending on toilet paper? Do you know how much you're spending on water, disposable, water bottles? Do you know? And a lot of them don't know. They're like, I have no idea. I just have the company credit card. Yeah. And I'm like, that's great that you have that trust from the doctor to be able to use a credit card. But if you actually start looking at budgets and really start realizing how much you're spending, you'll realize that we do a lot of unnecessary spending that is not maybe costing them any money, but it is costing the company, which then in return does have an impact on how much goes out the door versus how much comes in, and that could jeopardize a business. So I think it's very important for managers to start having a true understanding of how much financial responsibility they are responsible for.
Yeah, and you mentioned even in your notes that you sent over to me, it's having these financial self audits, whether again it's just the simple things as you said, office supplies or your merchant services or the utilities, and again some of these are fixed items that you just can't always deal with. But again, as in Alex's case, pretty much once you've earned the trust of your doctor, and I know this is the way it was for Alex. I mean, Alex, you basically made the decisions for that business to let the doctor do what she was doing and doing best, and that was seeing and helping patients. And she just let you do what you had to do. And again, if you're not managing this, remember this little graphic that I got here. Remember, you're kind of managing, and then if you're spending too much, then it's sinking. And then needing to make sure that it's getting pointed in the right direction. And then lastly, as we kind of start wrapping up here, because again, we've got about 7-8 minutes left for the webinar, and that is to create the Bling. And this is all leading up to what my missional statement is, again, what Alex's missional statement is, and as an office manager, this should be your missional statement. And that is, what am I doing to help my doctor not just remain independent, but become very strong as an independent doctor? And that is one of the areas and where we can find some additional things that we can help increase the doctor's cash flow. So one of the things that we're going to kind of go through 5 different things here pretty quickly. And basically, these are the things that I saw Alex do. She does the things that no one else does. And you as an office manager go, you know what, I do that. Oh, I may not be doing that. You could add to this list too as an office manager. So again, don't take this as the only things that you can do to help create, again, what we call the Bling, which is just more money, cash flow into the doctor's office. And she's already mentioned this first one right here, and that is insurance verifications and how easily that can just get slipped through the cracks. Alex, I think you mentioned that you've got someone just dedicated on insurance verifications.
Yes, we do not do what's called blind billing. So blind billing means the patient walks in, you kind of do a quick check on availability, see what their deductible is, and then you just collect their copay. And this is a huge mistake, because if that person's let's say that that patient's coming in for a trigger point injection. A lot
Right.
of people think, oh, it's just a $20 copay. Well, that specific procedure that's being done might be going to that patient's deductible. And let's
Yeah.
say that their deductible is $2,000. That means that your clinic is not going to get reimbursed for that procedure. So the $20 copay that they're paying you is actually not what they should be, what they're going to be responsible for. Well, then what happens, Eric, right? When we do the insurance billing, we generate a claim and it shows that it went to the deductible, and now the patient is going to owe money. Well, guys, if you don't collect this money up front, it's very unlikely that that patient will actually pay you for that money back. And
Right.
so verifying insurance ahead of time and knowing that that CPT code is subject to deductible will help increase your AR. I'm sorry, will help decrease your AR. That's outstanding,
Yeah.
because you're going to be collecting that money up front before they walk out. Same with treatment plans. If you know that a patient is going to be receiving multiple things in their office. In my clinic, we have a PT clinic that's also along with our medical practice. So we know that those patients that are coming in for back pain are maybe going to need a TENS unit or a back brace. So putting a treatment plan ahead of time so that that patient knows what the expectation of the doctor is key. You don't want to blindside them by things that they're going to need that they financially aren't going to be able to afford later.
Right.
On the next thing is setting up those patient payments. So if you already know, let's say a patient comes in and you already know that they're not going to be able to afford it, then putting a patient payment plan in place is also a good solution, where you can maybe charge their credit card on a designated day each time. And again, this is all leading up to making sure that you, as the office manager, can increase revenue, or not even increase, but not lose money.
Sure.
As these patients are waiting for their insurance claims to pass through.
And the next two that we're going to share with you as we kind of wrap up here, I'd really like for the office managers to kind of listen in, because again, I mentioned to you earlier, you run that clinic, and these next two, we're going to encourage you to kind of open up your mind and kind of really go after it. And the first one is, we want you to really seriously look for ancillary services. I mean, Alex, this is one of the areas where I've seen, I remember when I first met you and where your doctor was actually located to where her doctor's office is located now, and the expansion of that clinic to what it's all doing. You did an incredible job of listening to people that would come in and share with you about ancillary services.
Yes, Eric. So when I first started at my clinic, we were only doing follow-up visits. And we're going to talk a little bit. I know you're going to wrap up the last one with how much our doctors really do versus how much they're actually coding for and how much they're actually doing with their patients.
Yep.
And the office is losing revenue on, because the doctors are doing it. We're just not catching it because maybe we aren't aware, or maybe we just don't know. But for me, when I started realizing that we were sending a lot of patients out to specialists, it made me start really wondering, could we see that patient here? And so one of the things that we started doing right off the bat was actually allergy testing. Allergy testing, because we're a primary care office, was something that instead of referring out to a specialist, we could actually do there. So I really started wondering, what can we do to increase our patient services here?
Sure.
And so one of that was just allergy testing. And I tell you what, in 1 month, we were able to increase our revenue by $10,000. And that blew me away.
Yeah.
I was like, why had nobody ever told me about this? I'd been in management for 6-7 years before I started doing allergy testing in our office. So can you imagine if I implemented that 6-7 years ago? That's over $1 million that I would have helped generate, and not only maybe bonused off of or had more job security, but also helped the doctors continue to grow their business. When I started looking at ancillary services, honestly, our money just started flowing in, money that we didn't even realize we were missing out on. Started doing neural scans, started doing injections in office. I really just started Googling everything I could. And I started realizing how much I was missing out on. Again, this goes back to taking ownership. If you're an office manager, act like this is your business, not like you're just there to collect a paycheck every day. So ancillary services were huge for us.
Yeah, and again, as Alex can talk to this more directly than I can, because Alex, is and was an office manager sitting behind what I would call the glass, I may be an owner of a business that has ancillary services that I want to come in and talk with you about. And I can't tell you how often I just get, well, leave a card, leave this, and our office manager get back with you.
Right.
And how often as an office manager you could be letting $10,000 walk out of your office. And I know that it seems has been for a long period of time, office managers have been called the gatekeepers, and you are a gatekeeper. But don't be so locked in that you're not at least hearing some of the things that you
Correct.
could be getting that could create, and it may not be that particular ancillary service or any other service that might be walking into your door, but at least it gets you thinking and you go, wow, okay, well maybe I'll call that person back in, just kind of pick their brain, do some due diligence, and that's all we're asking them to do. And then lastly, don't be afraid of thinking of outsourcing. And Alex, I think this is the greatest fear from all of the office managers that I know, that if they present to their doctor a possibility of outsourcing their billing or their revenue cycle management to somewhere else outside that office, then they may themselves be losing their job. And that is so far beyond what ever happened, because out of all the medical billing that we do for our doctors, not one of our office managers have lost their jobs. Nobody else has lost their jobs. Matter of fact, they've increased staff because now they can afford it and do other things. So, and I bring that up because again, you got to that point where you finally outsourced your billing to someone and to get that out. And so that's so critical. And then I'm going to kind of wrap up with this, and then we're already over the 30-minute mark. So everybody just kind of hang on. We're about to wrap this up. But back in 2016, by Dave Jaculo with HBMA, he actually put this article out of why doctors should even think about outsourcing their billing. Because again, the challenge that are internal with billing operations, and I'm going to have to read this word for word, but you can see it. There's a lot of shortcomings, a lot of shortfalls, a lot of non-compliance issues that pop up. And so he listed 4 things in this article, and I didn't put all of the rest of what he wrote in the article, but 4 things to help you make sense. Regulation and education, 2, cost management, 3, business management, and 4, compliant and competent workforce. Because again, the physicians are working harder than ever before, and they need some relief. And that's where it could come either from these ancillary services, tightening up the ship of things that you're doing there in the office, of regulating your own office staff. But then again, really kind of thinking outside the box here, and at least talk with somebody who might be an outsourced billing company. So as we kind of wrap up here, Alex, I know that we're kind of gone over your time, and I told you that it would take us about 30 minutes, but we're already over a little bit. But folks, we've got this, and if you'll look over to the handouts area in your webinar control panel, I actually have a PDF of all the slides that we've talked about today, and this is being recorded. So if you want to come back and listen to it or share this with somebody else a little bit later, you certainly can. And then give them the PDF of what we're giving to you there. But we talked about Rockstar Workflows. We talked about set it, let it go, and let it grow, and then creating the bling with revenue stream opportunities. So folks, this is what we talked about. Alex, you got any last minute nuggets you can share with us this afternoon?
I just thank everybody for being here. If you're already on here, if you're listening to this, you're one of the few people that really, has a unique opportunity to make a difference in your doctor's business, in their lives. Help us keep doctors independent. Please reach out to Eric or myself. He's sharing with you guys our contact information. We come in and help people every day. We have a passion for it. And like Eric said, I didn't learn this overnight. It took a long time for me to really get to where I am today, with a lot of help from other people. And so don't be afraid to ask for help where you can be better, because we all every day have an opportunity to be better than we were yesterday.
You bet. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. Now, folks, again, I said that I was going to give out a free ebook today. And if you haven't gotten a copy of this, I'm going to put this again over into the little handout area. I'm going to first drop this over there as a PDF. So you're going to see this come up here in just a moment. I'm going to drop that over there. If you want it in an EPUB, which would be if for like an Apple or a Kindle version, what I'd ask you to do is just drop me a line on my email, and I'm going to share that with you here in just a moment, and then you can follow back up with me as we're doing that. For those that are still on the webinar, I'd ask you to help me help independent doctors. Whether you're an office manager or you're someone like Alex that might be on the webinar, you may be a financial advisor, you may be an attorney, you may be a CPA, you might be something that you are connecting with doctors somehow, some way. I'm asking you to join forces with me in helping keeping our doctors independent. So one of the ways to do that is attend our webinar next month. That'll be November let me pull this up here, November the 21st. November the 21st, I'm going to send out that date there. But you can use either one of those links there. Again, that'll be in your handout that you can download. But you can see bit.ly Financial Compass. So what we're going to be talking about there, I'm going to have a special guest on there with me on this webinar who's a financial planner. He's been in financial planning for over 20 years, and he primarily works with doctors. So we're going to be talking about 2020 and beyond. Is your financial compass set for success? Because we're going to talk about there, it's not necessarily just your retirement and do you have your kids' college funds set up. We're talking about, are you preparing your business, your medical billing, your medical practice, are you getting it ready to sell? What would you need to sell it? And what would the multiples look like if you were going to sell it? So those are some of the things that we're really going to dive into that, obviously a lot of doctors, even as you get started, you kind of know your exit plan before you even get started with your entry plan. So we can kind of help guide you with that. Again, my name is Eric with Providence MBA. Here's our contact information. If you want to get a hold of Alex, call me at 877-771-4000, or you can email us from our email address, which would be eric@providencemba. You can drop me a line there at either place. But before you leave today, get those handouts. I'm going to leave this up here running for a little bit. Alex, if you're still on here, again, I tell you thank you, and I look forward to keep working with you. Thanks so much, Alex.